Welcome to Brainstorium. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning Dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello imaginative people, I'm Anna Tizard and this is episode 32 of Brainstorium. It's also number 5 in my 6-part Alice in Wonderland mini-series, which, like all episodes, you can listen to in any order. Now, I've just come back from a short break in the city of Oxford, where I had a wonderful time meandering around medieval university buildings, botanic gardens, and bookshops by the river, where Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was first conceived and told to a real girl called Alice. Today I'm asking, what does the story mean? Can we pin it down to a specific interpretation? And should we even try? Because there are several different theories that I can find, and they can't all be right, can they? After some deep digging, join me for 3 new rounds of Exquisite Corpse wordplay, where randomness and imagination will guide our own pathway into the world of story. But first, braced with a cup of tea and a pen, it is time once again to enter Wonderland. So what does it mean? I can't help but think that this is part of what makes Alice in Wonderland so enduring. No one can be quite sure, but because of that, we keep trying. It lingers in our minds because it's a puzzle we can never completely solve. Some people believe that Lewis Carroll took drugs and came up with the story that way, but there's no evidence that he took drugs. They may point to the caterpillar smoking its hookah on a mushroom, but don't forget, you can smoke ordinary tobacco in a hookah, and that would have been very well known at the time. Carroll's writing is so jam-packed with riddles, puns, and philosophy. Who could write something so masterful, clever, and intricately detailed when they were under the influence of a psychedelic drug? Alice growing and shrinking probably refers to the weirdness of growing up as a child and trying to get used to being taller, an experience the real Alice would have been going through. Lewis Carroll was a maths tutor at Oxford University, and there are whole books written on decoding the maths puzzles he's embedded in the story, which are in abundance for those who want to look for them. Not me. I'm not a maths geek, thank you very much. But kudos to those who are. Carroll also made jokes about real people he knew by parodying them as creatures in the tale. The real Alice's father was constantly late, although he always carried a pocket watch. Sound familiar? But what about the overarching story of a child who falls down a hole underground? Bear in mind that the original story was called Alice's Adventures Underground. A Greek myth begins with Persephone in a field full of flowers with her sister, and she falls down a hole into the underworld. Well, she's kidnapped by Hades and trapped there. This myth symbolises the changing of the seasons, and the Persephone story echoes in myths across Europe where the goddess of spring disappears under the ground during winter to come up again when spring emerges. The goddess of spring is also associated with a rabbit who is a guide to the underworld. I guess bunnies do know their way underground, so that does kind of make an intuitive sense. The British version of the myth is Easter, the original Easter and celebration of spring. But to me, these all feel like individual references, pieces of meaning you might discover in the story. I'm more interested in the bigger picture than in the details. What is the overarching meaning of Alice's adventures in Wonderland? What is Carol trying to say? The book is permeated by the strangeness of a dream. If it's true that Carol first made up the story during a boat trip down the river without pen and paper, it sounds like he was a discovery writer. So then we can ask not just what was he trying to say, but what was he trying to discover? Or what was his subconscious mind showing him through these spontaneous characters and ideas before he reshaped them and edited them afterwards on paper? Some people say that the story is about growing up and moving on from the nonsensical thinking you have as a child. Alice goes from a whimsical child at the beginning, dreaming of another world, to someone who, frustrated by these characters who just don't make sense, eventually calls them out when she says to the Queen's guards, "But you're nothing but a pack of cards." This idea is quite popular, that she's got over nonsense. She's had her adventure, and at the end, she's ready to return to the real world and to a life of common sense. But I find this a slightly depressing interpretation. I feel that it reduces Wonderland. It almost belittles Alice's adventure, suggesting we should just forget about it afterwards, set it aside. The problem with this interpretation is a very practical one. Even as adults, we want to return to it and revisit Wonderland, or at least revisit our imaginations. Also, a certain amount of escapism is important, possibly even vital for our mental health. Otherwise, stories probably wouldn't exist. We need an escape from the real world from time to time to be able to cope with stress, if nothing else. And often, more often lately, I find myself looking at the real world and thinking, that doesn't really make sense, does it? Also, don't forget that Alice returns to Wonderland in Through the Looking Glass, so if you think her adventures are over, they're not. What would life be like if we were never curious, never questioned anything, never dreamed? Carol clearly valued these qualities. Don't just accept everything without questioning, without exploring, wondering and wandering. Carol invented the story spontaneously on a river, following the whims of his imagination. The idea that he thought we should set aside our childlike curiosity seems opposite to that, anathema to the invention of Wonderland itself. No, I prefer the interpretation John Truby gives in his book The Anatomy of Genres, which is an amazing book that describes the philosophical purpose of each genre and what it says about the world. Truby says that Wonderland signifies the mind as monster, the monster of illogic. For there are parts of us that definitely don't make real-world sense, and it's these that Alice encounters. But this monstrous illogic isn't just confined to the depths of one person's own mind. The fantasy of Alice also comments on the real world and says, this isn't quite right. This world is full of contradictions and illogic. In Truby's philosophical exploration of genres, he says the underlying goal of fantasy is how to find happiness. And he says that nonsense is extremely valuable when it comes to finding happiness. I agree that when faced with the frustrations and limitations of reality, if we cannot think beyond it, we have no hope of happiness. Much of our well-being comes from the ability to see beyond what we have and know and do at this point in time, and to imagine better for ourselves and our loved ones, and even the world at large. Happiness is not a destination, a state of mind that you arrive at once you've finally got that special thing or achieved something. We're always going to want more. But that doesn't mean that we have to be greedy or let these desires consume us or change us. Having goals, having a sense of purpose and curiosity is part of what makes us happy. We just need to balance gratefulness for what we already have with a measured approach to goal setting. If we don't have something to work towards, then we're miserable. Reality isn't enough. Stories teach us that. So let's be whimsical and playful in our approach to stories, so we can make up adventures where there were none a moment before, so we can escape, find some fun, and a little bit of much needed nonsense. So before we share a few rounds of Exquisite Corpse, here's a publishing opportunity I stumbled across on the World Wide Web recently. Hearth and Coffin Literary Journal is looking for microfiction from 15th of July to 31st of August 2023. If you're listening to this in the future, they may be looking for something else. Have a look. At the time of recording, they have no genre restrictions and they accept prose and poetry with just one rule: no longer than 500 words, not including the title. For information, go to hearthandcoffin.com. That's hearthandcoffin.com with the "and" spelled out. As always, check the terms and conditions before you decide where you'd like to submit your creative work. Now, as the river of time flows on, let's plunge down the hole of the unknown and enter the underworld of our imaginations. What story suggestions will we find today in the Socks of Destiny? That's right, and as regular listeners will know, Exquisite Corpse randomises words and phrases into a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. And you can send me these words and phrases, if you like, at my play page at annatizard.com, either anonymously or you can leave your name for a shout out. Right, let's see what our first describing word is. This is from Paul Benfield, bright-eyed. Okay, our next word is from T.F. Burke, deck of cards. Ooh, that feels quite Alice in Wonderland. I like that. Right, let's pull an action from the action sock. This is from a Twitter ID, Captain Random 10. Very appropriate name. Flew up into a tree to find. Okay. Again, this is feeling really Alice in Wonderland. It feels like her time in the gardens when she's playing croquet with the Queen. Right, I'm going to try not to jump ahead though. Let's not interpret until we've got the full Exquisite Corpse. So the next word is from Evan, gaunt. Okay, who or what was gaunt? This is from a Twitter ID, Sarah Jean M. Daughter of Time. Wow. I don't remember writing that down. That is one hell of a noun. Okay, so let's have a look at the entire Exquisite Corpse. The bright-eyed deck of cards flew up into a tree to find the gaunt daughter of time. This is amazing. I have no idea what it means, but it feels so Wonderland and so suggestive. I just can't decide what it's suggesting to me. It's very dreamlike. The bright-eyed deck of cards flew up into a tree to find the gaunt daughter of time. I mean, maybe the only thing we can do, at least to start with, is to look at the different parts, because we don't have to try and resolve the whole thing as if it's a puzzle. Stories are puzzles enough without making hard work for ourselves. So let's look at this. So you've got the idea of this daughter of time who is gaunt in a tree. Why is she hiding in a tree? Is she hiding from time? Because she is not time herself. She is the daughter of time. And she's drained. She's suffering from something, from too much time. She spent too much time with her mum. That's a terrible thing to say. The bright-eyed deck of the cards, we have this idea of the characters on the cards having eyes that can watch you. Ooh, that's so creepy. You could just take that on its own and think about a game that's being played. A group of people sitting in a tavern by candlelight. They've all put a little too much money on the table. In fact, some of them are running out of money and they're down to a gold watch. Another one's put their wallet on the table, but you're not quite sure how much is in there or what's in there. Another has a vial of liquid that will take you into another world. This is an unusual group of people. But perhaps they're all stuck in some way, desperate for a new chance at life. They suspect each other of cheating. Eyes flitting under heavy, suspicious brows. Who's cheating? They sense a trick. But maybe the real trick is being played on them by the dealer of the cards, the barmaid who brought them their drinks and dealt the cards so innocently. It's a strange set of cards that has its own kind of intention. As they play and look at their hands, they become aware of the pictures of the Queen, the Jack and the King, watching them, bright-eyed, their eyes catching the light, the quivering light from the candles. There's another game being played here. They're all being played. Ooh, it's so creepy and strange. I mean, yes, I've just taken the first part, just the describing word noun part, the bright-eyed deck of cards. But what else could you do if those cards flew up into a tree? So if someone flung them, maybe after they've finished playing, they tossed them into a tree. But then how would you connect that to finding the gaunt daughter of time? Oh, it's just so Alice in Wonderland. Thank you for sending me these bizarre words. Have a play with this one. I recommend just write it down and just maybe give yourself 10 minutes. Just try to come up with some ideas from this, because there's definitely something to be found in here. But I'm going to move on for now to the next Exquisite Corpse. And our first word is from Paul Benfield again, frayed. Next word is from Andy. Necomata. Apologies if I've mispronounced that. This is, I had to look it up. I made some little scribbly notes in the corner of my slip of paper for when this came up. This is in Japanese mythology. It's a kind of cat spirit or demon in Japanese folklore, where a cat has grown old and transformed into this scary Nekomata. Afraid, as in a frayed Nekomata, so kind of raggedy round the edges. Perhaps it's been through some battles, or maybe its fur is standing on end, or it's wearing something, because I think they're sort of portrayed as walking on two legs, so they sort of become sort of almost half human as part of their trickery. So maybe what it's wearing is frayed. Ooh, anyway, so next one, the action word is from Mariah. Protected. Ooh, that's interesting, considering that they're meant to be dangerous creatures. So it perceives there's something it wants to protect, or someone. The next word is from Anonymous. Loving. Okay, and the final word is, oops, they're all getting stuck on my fingers. T.F. Burke. Leaf blower. Oh my goodness. Okay. Right, let's have a look at the entire Exquisite Corpse. We have the frayed Nekomata or Nikomata, which is the cat spirit, protected the loving leaf blower. Right, I think it's time for some green tea. This has been brewing a little while, so I think it should be ready to drink now. Right, let's just see if this gives me any inspiration or helps my concentration. Right, this Exquisite Corpse again. The frayed Nikomata protected the loving leaf blower. I'm straight away drawn to the most inexplicable part of this Exquisite Corpse. Of course I am, which is the loving leaf blower. But I think we'd have to think outside the box on this to make that work. The loving leaf blower, could that be the wind or the spirit of the wind? Or even the season of autumn? Maybe I'm thinking that because I was talking about Alice in Wonderland earlier, the idea of the seasons changing and Persephone, the myth that may have been the basis for some of the story. Demons doing battle to control the seasons, and the Nekomata is frayed because it's already been through the wars, so it's got raggedy fur, perhaps a tear in its ear. This is all very, very weird fantasy. What about we try and make this more ordinary and accessible, more down to earth? So what else could a loving leaf blower mean? A gardener? Someone who works in a garden centre, selling plants, compost, plant pots, leaf blowers, a loving character, or someone who's lonely and wants to love. Let's call him Brian. Why not? His manager is a bully and he feels stuck in this life of routine, working in the shop every day, and this horrible person he has to deal with every single day. There's some reason why he can't get another job at the moment. That's something to think about and try and work out. But who is this frayed cat demon who protects him? A customer who overhears something, some nasty comment Brian's boss says to him? Frayed definitely suggests that this cat demon has been through difficult times themselves. Perhaps someone older. I'm thinking an old woman who keeps cats for company. So someone who seems like a sort of a stereotype, you know, the crazy cat lady. But that, of course, means that she must be more than meets the eye. Does she stick up for Brian? Would that really help him, or would he just feel embarrassed? There would have to be something more. As I said, if these are ordinary people on the surface of things, and you've got a fairly simple story set up here, I think you've got to throw in a bit of magic and take the cues from the Exquisite Corpse, or just anything else that your imagination comes up with as you try writing something. So what has invoked this cat demon in the first instance? Is the garden centre, has it been built on an ancient site or something? Or did it used to be a museum that kept, I don't know if it was Egyptian artefacts, because they did keep, they mummified their cats because they very much revered and even worshipped cats in ancient Egypt. It's the sort of thing you might find in a museum that specialises in the ancient Egypt. Something invokes this ancient frayed Nekomata and strikes out at Brian's boss in a really unexpected, creepy way. What if you made this really dark? What if it or she kills his boss, wanting to protect Brian, and then Brian thinks, "Oh my goodness, I might get accused of murder here. What's actually happened here?" And he challenges this strange person or creature. "I never meant you to kill him." "Oh, but you were so unhappy and I was only trying to help." There's something here that you could play with. Maybe there is something Brian's done during his work, or maybe just the feelings, his absolute misery as he's been working in this place has invoked this ancient being from this underworld underneath the garden centre. And perhaps there's even a portal. He'll go down some steps into this underworld. There's just so many possibilities. But I think it's time we need to move on and try out our third and final Exquisite Corpse of the day. So the first word is from Mariah. Golden. Let's get a noun for that. This is from Captain Random again. Butler. A golden butler. Ooh. I have no idea what that means, but that's okay. Let's try for an action. This is from Andy Burrows. Returned to. Ooh. Where does this golden butler return to? This is from Fraser Armitage. Deliberate. Can a place be deliberate? It's an interesting idea. And the final word is from Paul Benfield. Social butterfly. Ooh, okay. Right, let's just read out the whole Exquisite Corpse and see what we can make of this. So we have the golden butler returned to the deliberate social butterfly. I don't believe it. This actually makes sense. in an ordinary way as well. So the golden butler, a butler who's won medals and flashes gold from his jacket, or maybe just his mantelpiece at home, decides something changes his mind, and he decides to go back to being the social butterfly he once was. So let's just dig a little bit deeper. So he's won these awards for his absolute discretion, his etiquette, total self-control. He's quite insular, and he's quite happy to be at the beck and call of his master. But what caused him to be so subservient? He has a dark secret. Something awful happened to him to make him shut himself away like that and sort of plug all his energies into being the best butler he could possibly be. Maybe he fell in love with another man and it didn't go well. Either the other guy didn't love him back, or there was so much strain on the relationship as it broke the social norms of the time. He needed to conform completely so he could keep his job being an extremely refined butler to a very wealthy household. So he shuts himself away, clams up his heart, and puts all his energy into being the most incredible butler ever, to the point that he is golden. He's won awards. But then what changes? Why does the golden butler return to the deliberate social butterfly? What if his ex-lover has found his way into higher social circles and turns up at a party thrown by the butler's master? Seeing him again, his old love, seeing this man so free, or possibly laughing in his face, I don't know. Something in the butler snaps and he throws off his pretenses. He gives up his role, maybe spectacularly, in the middle of the party, to the outrage of everyone there. To return to the social butterfly he once was. No magic needed in this particular one. It's just a very odd story of someone changing, adapting, then realising they've pushed themselves perhaps too far in one direction, and then the truth will out. Just something triggers his old self, his true old self, as a social butterfly. I quite like it. So, looking back over the 3 exquisite corpses we've had today, from the bright-eyed deck of cards flew up into a tree to find the gaunt daughter of time. My goodness, this one with all its peculiar hints, very Wonderland. Who's controlling this game? Perhaps it's the cards themselves that are watching you and controlling what's going on. From that to an innocent leaf blower, a simple, warm-hearted character working in a garden centre whose anguish at being bullied unintentionally unleashes a demonic yet protective spirit, to a gay butler who's denied his true nature for so long until a visit from his ex-lover brings out his true character once more. I hope you've enjoyed the story gameplay as much as I have today, and that you have some writing fodder to play with. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstorium. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me, or inspire yourself, to write a unique new story. See you next time.